Gives me great pleasure to introduce you guys today. Again, been on the show before, big fan of this band. But I have Karl Middleton from the band earthtone9 today. Welcome, Karl.
Thank you. It's good to see you again, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you as well. I really appreciate you doing this, and I'm just gonna say it straight off that thank you for making a new album. It's been a while, like we kind of just referenced before I hit record. It's been 11 years since four.
Yeah. Really
Um,
long time.
Really long time. And we did touch base back in 2020 when we had the Arctangent 20th anniversary vinyl reissue, the first of many that you've had since, which has been greatly received by me. I would have got them out of my boxes here to have them in the background. Um, but I physically can't lift those boxes at the moment. It's killing me. Um, just stacked full of vinyl at the moment. But no, you guys have kind of come back together in that time. Well, at least three of you.
Mhm.
Um, and obviously we'll talk a bit more in depth in that in a moment. But this new album, in Renaissance Nexus, is out on the 21st, which is in a couple of days.
Yeah.
It's my watch. And you and you signed up with Candlelight for this one.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is a nice little partnership there. Um, but yeah, tell us a little bit about the album. I mean, you've got a couple of tracks out already. You sort of hit everyone with Oceanic Drift to start with. Um, and then you did is it Navison Record? Is that
Yep.
and you just released one of my favorite tracks off the album, which is Black Swan Roulette. Um, which is absolutely I love that song. It was written, I had that written down before you released it. I had making these notes.
Mm.
It's like have this, and then you released it, and then everyone's heard it. So this is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us a little bit about this. How you guys sort of like got that energy back.
Um, I mean, it's just been such a long game. So we've probably written and scrapped two albums in the last decade. I
Okay.
was living away. We were quite separated, disparate. So getting together to work on stuff was slow going. And it I wasn't there for much of this because I was away, but it sounded like the old configuration of the band just kind of run out of road, creatively speaking, where it's like trying to find the overlap,
Yeah.
trying to find the material that excites everybody so it can be taken forward and developed. Means that there's like a natural sort of gatekeeping process,
Yeah.
and that had frustrated Owen. So he had done an Unearth the King's record with Jace
Yeah.
Bald, um, and his passion has always been, well, I say passion, his thing has always been metal. He
Yeah.
loves Carcass, he loves At the Gate. Um, and then, in the earlier iterations of the band, Graham, the original bass player, loved Voivod and Celtic Frost and Nine Inch Nails and and Peter Gabriel and world music. So it was this kind of like amalgamation of stuff. Um, and then over time, I guess when we got back together, we were thinking about how we could do something that felt authentic to us as like 30 and 40 somethings.
Yeah.
And we kind of settled in this area, which was like, it didn't necessarily sound like it exactly, but like Mastodon's maturing. You know what I mean? Where you're talking about good songs, muscular music, but inherently quite traditional rock music, but downtuned.
Yeah.
And it it just felt like we had milked all of the good stuff out of that, and that the material that we were writing in that vein felt like a law of diminishing returns.
Mm.
And Owen was like, basically was like, I need to follow my heart. I want to do something that's more aggressive, more metallic. And originally it was a solo record that he was thinking about doing, and I was like, I'd love to hear those songs, dude. And he sent me a couple. I did some top lines on a couple of them, and then it was this whole trying to figure out what it is, what it could be. But then when Joe came back, it was like, well, that's three-fifths of Earth Tone. It has a lot of the hallmarks of Earth Tone.
Yep.
Um, and you have these conversations where is the band the people in the band, or is the band the sound of the band? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, I was kind of late to that party. We were thinking about doing it under a different name, but then it was actually Joe that was like, why, this is he'd come back in and it had we to some extent Joe Owen and I were too close to it, and
Yes.
he's like, this sounds like earthtone. It's the main writers in earthtone.
Yeah.
It's earthtone, and
Yeah.
I was like, good point, well made,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Can't argue.
But then still, even though we decided what badge it was going to have on it, we weren't sure if we were going to release an album, So we
Yeah.
were. This was also this sort of point I'm talking about now. It was kind of in COVID, so it was just like the discipline of writing songs together helped us stay sane in a really weird time, and helped us to stay connected with our peers and friends, and just have productive, healthy man time, hanging out, talking about things, virtually hanging out,
Yeah.
sharing ideas. And so it was part cathartic, part social, all of the good stuff that music can be, the sort of the glue and the lube.
Yes.
And yeah, and then we ended up with a stack of songs in various sort of states, and we were just kind of developing what we were feeling pulled towards and what was interesting us. And I think we probably had about 20 songs finished. And then this album has ended up being the 10 that we really felt hung together,
Yeah.
and felt like a coherent and cohesive body of work, and represented um, what we were interested in and what we wanted to share with the world in 2024.
Nice. Nice. I mean, it's definitely an earth tone record. Joe was right. It does sound like when I was listening to it, there's like these little hallmarks in the guitar sound. There's like stuff in your vocals.
Yeah,
And I was like, I mean, it sounds like an earthtone 9 record. It's the logical progression from especially Arctangent to this, like with four in between.
yeah,
Like four had its moments, and then it's this is the kind of like there's a certain maturity to it. There's very different production style as well. Um,
yeah.
as well. And like obviously you brought in there was like other musicians that worked in with you. Obviously you got the three core of you. You had Jason Bold on drums, I believe, doing the studio, and you had
Yep.
Ruben Gotto as well, another name from the
Mm-hmm.
past. I know he's doing very well as a tech and whatnot now and a guitar maker.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
he co-wrote or he contributed to Black Swan Roulette.
oh, really?
So,
I was about
yeah,
to
yeah,
ask what ones were the, but that yeah,
yeah.
and you've got a guest on the album as well, which we'll talk about in a bit, which is another name from the past, but I follow them more recently and what they're up to on that front. But we'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about that in a second. But no, I was just got to say this album's it's fantastic. I've
Thank
pre-ordered
you.
it. I'm waiting for the vinyl copy to come, hopefully this week. Um, um,
Yeah.
um, but
You
yeah,
know what? They arrived from the distribution house like this morning.
oh really?
We've been we've been like trying to push them for a little while. Just because we were like, listen, we've pre-sold a bunch of stuff to our OGs. We want to get it out to them early. We want them to be able to
Yeah,
listen to it on Friday, not us tell them that we posted it on Friday.
yeah,
Seems a bit weak, but yeah, they've just rocked up, so we're gonna do our best to try and
fantastic.
get them out to the
I, I,
folks that have been ultra supportive.
I'll be waiting by the door, waiting for the post person to
Yeah.
and do that. But no, I mean, like I said, I mean, let's talk about the guests you got on there. You got um, Mali Malpass, others from back in the day. I know them from One Dice, um, which were a fantastic band, short-lived, fantastic band. I believe I've got again. It's like I was going to grab the CDs that I've got of theirs, but I don't have the.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of people may know them from recently. It was the Metalhead on the Ragnar Nation or Ranga Nation,
Yeah.
which is a show on BBC. I missed that unfortunately, but I do follow them on social media, so people can go find them now and find out. But how did that come about? Because it's such a random name from back then. And
Yeah.
you're not strangers to having guests on your record, but like this was like a total like when I saw it in the press release, if you will, and then listened to the track, I'm like, fucking hell, this sounds it's another great track on the album. But how did that come to be?
Um, I guess it was one of the songs on the earlier side of things. And so going back a couple of steps from the song, it was a real full circle moment because Mally was my predecessor. So prior to earthtone9, there was a band briefly called Blast Cage,
Oh yes.
and so I and they were based in Nottingham in the mid 90s. Blast Cage had a production deal with a studio called Square Centre, which is where Andy Sneap first started working
Yeah.
with the core of the band. Um, that band comprised of Owen and Joe and Graham Watt and Richie Mills on drums, who went on to be in Cable and Stunner, and um, I think he played with Imogen Heap for a bit. But yeah, so anyway, um, and so I met Mally a bunch of times because I was going up and hanging out with Graham when they put this new lineup together. But um, Mally was a teenager at that point, relocated, massive move, massive life change, and it just didn't stick for them. So um, there was a tour booked, and the band wanted to fulfill it, and so I stepped in to do those shows, and then never left. and and we renamed the band earthtone9.
Okay.
And so and so when when we were like, thinking about music as a continuum and as a celebration of life and relationship and the richness that music and community can bring, that it felt like a really cool, fun thing to do. And so we shared the music with Mally. They wrote some parts, but it was, I think, whilst that was going on, while Mally was cooking up some parts, I also laid some parts, and then it was like a happy accident almost, where Owen was like, I think this would work together, because originally it was just going to be like a guest spot.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of, I guess like Yellow Fever, but
Yeah.
where someone sings the verse and then I sing the chorus maybe. But it was like, wait, we've never had a duet kind of thing before.
No.
Duet sounds so weird and cheesy.
It
Makes me
does.
think of like some sort of movie soundtrack thing. Yeah, but it worked. It gelled, and we were
Yeah.
like, this is killer. And when way back when I heard the first the Blast Cage demo, I couldn't believe that there was someone that good vocally with that sort of tone. Mally's voice is just rad. And so when I joined the band, which then became Earthtone, I always felt like a bit of like an imposter, um, just because he had this like phenomenal deep metal tone, like Chuck Billy kind of
Yeah.
richness.
Yeah.
And that was something that I'd always aspired to, but it just at that point in time it wasn't part of my repertoire kind of thing. And so yeah, just to have the blend of his voice and my voice was something that it's like a bucket list kind of thing.
Yeah. No, it's amazing because like I say, it's a name that I mean, obviously I didn't know the connection prior to that because I just know them from One Dice. Uh,
Yeah,
so I mean that's amazing. Like they say, it's a full circle moment in that respect where it's kind of like, bringing someone that was there at the start, kind of at the start anyway, and just
yeah. Before the start, at
okay.
the if circumstances had been different, I wouldn't have got an opportunity. And so his sorry their life circumstances and what was right for them at that point opened up a door for me to be able to pursue something that was my my passion, and that opportunity came along. And then I guess the other element of it is it's funny, like Mandy lives in Wales, I live in Wales now.
Yeah.
Mandy's a Bristolian. We've had some of our most killer shows ever in Bristol. Got a lot of love for the West Country, so it's almost like he's emblematic of our
Yeah.
West Country love. We played like legendary shows at places like the Green Bank, Birkin, Beckler, um, just there's a long list. It's
Yeah,
just it was a wild place with wild fans, and we just used to love going there.
yeah,
Half Moon, I think we played a bunch as well.
yeah,
Or it was a full moon, something moon.
something mean. No, like recently I've been to Bristol a couple of times, and I'm loving that city. I don't know what it is about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if it's just because it feels like it's full of creatives. And
yeah.
it's
Well, I mean, it's an old mercantile port city, so it's got like a really serious melting pot.
yeah,
There's there's people there that are on the edge, and it's a big city as well,
yes,
and so there's just a lot going on.
yeah.
If you're a cider man, there's a place called the Hatchet that you should go and check out.
I will let my wife know she's the cider drinker. So on that front, but yeah, no, I would. It's a great place, and yeah, I played a couple of shows down there as well. And you're right, it's a crazy fan base down there. Um, and obviously, other tracks on the record, the one you have released, the Navison record. Now, I'd heard this one before, like an iteration you had about 2 years ago. I think it was you, Joe, and Owen. You did
Yeah,
Standing Dead Center, and you released a two-track single. Um, was that part of that process you were talking about at the start with
yes.
some of the things that you're putting out? So what happened between was the Joe conversation that you had between that in 22 and now in 24? Like, was that when you had the earthtone 9 kind of like discussion? Because you had two tracks in there. One that she hasn't made this record, which was
Hmm.
Where the Fury of the Patient Man.
Yeah.
But Navison record did. So what was the like, with that release, was there any intent, or was it literally you wanted to put a badge on this because you feel it wasn't, or you wanted to
Um,
sort of, because it was, I mean, I got it as a present. I got the
yeah.
CD and t-shirt. I was going to wear the t-shirt, but I thought that might be a bit much. Um, but yeah, what was the sort of like the process of that?
so yeah, we were trying to just figure out a way of continuing to do music and managing to not put any noses out of joint. And then it was kind of like it was really Owen and I had decided on this thing. I was like, let's put it out as a separate thing. We can really lean into the differences um, between the latter day Earth Tone and this stuff. And then over time, with Joe coming back in and becoming more central, it, it became more apparent when I wasn't sort of stuck in the newness of it and making the comparison between four and this material. I was just like, it's not a million miles away from some of the stuff on Off Kilter Enhancement. In fact, lots of the material in terms of the aggression of it is very similar to Off Kilter Enhancement. The obvious difference is the metallic nature of the drums and the accents and the pace. But yeah, in terms of the ferocity and the wildness of the material, there's alignment there,
Yeah,
strong alignment. And yeah, it really just took, Joe to give me a figurative shake and be like, this is Earthstone, it's the three of us, is Earthstone.
yeah.
And then, yeah, and then it kind of all made sense. And in terms of Navison, that actually wasn't going to be on the record, but Lewis was just like, what are you guys doing? He's like, this is one of the best songs. Why is it not on the list? And
Yeah.
I was like, well, we released it as a single um, for another project, and he was like, how many people have heard it? And I was like, well, I suppose a couple of hundred people listen to it of our hardcore Earthstone fan base. And he was like, this we're making a serious record that's for the world.
Yeah.
You shouldn't deprive it shouldn't not feature on this Earthtone record because a couple of hundred people have heard it
Yep.
under the moniker of Standing Dead Center. And again, it was one of those um, being too close to it and being like, oh, that's done, that's a different thing. When it sounds different. Some of the parts have changed. I think the Standing Dead Center version had like a real guest metallic, like Dimebag esque solo on it, and that was taken off because that's not Earth Tone, and we put some sort of helmet noise kind of vibe part on it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's just Um, yeah, and that advice coming from someone that we trusted and respected that had added so much to the record, it felt like maybe he can see something that we can't
Yeah.
currently, or that we'd just stopped considering. And and yeah, the point is we wanted it to feel fresh to us, which meant not including some of the
Yeah.
older songs or some of the songs that we weren't excited about anymore. And he came in with more objectivity and was like, what are the part of his criteria was what he was like. I remember that song. I heard it once. The hook is undeniable.
Hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, going on that, I mean, that track is a great track. Like again, it's one of the highlights of the album, and there's a couple of other tracks as well, like Under the Snake, Etiquette of Distortion, Observe the Course, which was the track we were talking about with Mally on there. I mean, it's an album of absolute bangers, to be honest. Like there's not like I haven't skipped any of the tracks, if that makes sense.
Mm,
Um,
yeah,
which is like unusual these days because there's been a few recently where I've like, there's albums that are kind of like, oh, this track's on, I'll just go and grab a drink or whatever. Um,
yeah.
but like obviously like I mentioned it at the start and we started talking about Lewis just there, but the production on this is very, I mean, it's got like the tones, the sort of guitar sounds, vocal sort of stuff like that, and it all sounds like Earth Tone 9, but the production value seems to be just like higher up from wherever it was before. Like listening to it in headphones, there's a lot of like stereo action going on, like different things going on in different areas. And like I say, I had it on my monitors here, and I can hear different things, like which is like I don't think I didn't actually go for any reference points. I didn't go back and listen to anything else you've done. Um, but obviously you were talking just about you sort of scratching the surface of what Lewis brought to the record. How did the connection with him come about? How did he become the producer of this particular project?
So when we signed to Candlelight, Darren Toms brought us in. He's like the main sort of A&R guy at Candlelight. He's recently moved on to other things, but so we had I worked with Darren many years ago, and then we were talking to Candlelight about putting out the Four album. Actually, it didn't feel like the right fit at the time, but he's really good at what he does. He's really knowledgeable about music, and he has really good taste, which is why he's a great A&R guy. So when when we signed, it was him that made the suggestion about Lewis, um, and we were both Owen and I really liked the last Employ to Serve record.
Yep.
I liked the Svalbard record, um, and so I mean we were unsure if it felt like we were trying to, jump on a bandwagon and go with like real cutting edge 2024 metal production.
Yeah.
But it felt like to go and work with Ramesh again would be coasting a bit.
Okay.
Ramesh makes killer sounding records,
Yeah.
and he's really great. But it felt like new record, new chapter, new label. Let's embrace the new, and
Yeah.
let's lean into taking some risks. And yeah, so sonically it sounds different. It but it's it hasn't. I think what I've said a few times about Lewis's work is that he gets the essence of what the band is and then sort of amplifies that essence instead of imposing his sound onto a band. And obviously he has some preferences and there's some stylistic stuff, but it's never like an imposition. It always brings out the best of the band. And so we just feel like that's what he's done with this record. And also he's again very tasteful, very musical. Um, Combination of exacting but easy to work with is you know quite rare
Yeah.
and very enjoyable to work with. Um, and so yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
Fantastic. I mean, it like I say, it's got that next level sound to it, and like the Svalbard record was fantastic. I had uh God, why have I forgotten her name?
Serena, that's the name.
Lena, that's it. I had her on the show a couple of months ago when they released an album.
Mhm.
Released that album, Major Impact. And again, like when I heard that, like sonically, I mean, there is some next level stuff going on with a lot of the like production now, especially within the rock and
Yes,
community, which is like there used to be a sort of standard, um, which you kind of got used to back in the day. Not to knock any of the sort of like production from back then, but there were a lot of like producers that had exact preferences on what amp head you'd use, what drum sounds you have, and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of a lot of bands started to sound the same.
yeah,
It's the same presets, I guess they used on
hmm
that front.
yeah,
And with a lot of the stuff now, I've found that because a lot of people can do this in their bedrooms, a lot of people can do this in their living rooms, their kitchens, wherever. Like the production you can get out of technology you can just buy off the shelf is crazy. So
yeah.
it's
It's
got to take a
extraordinary.
yeah, you got to take a producer that's pushing the boundaries within the traditional studio setting as well, which is the only way it will grow. And like with someone like Lewis and stuff, like some of their stuff is just it just sounds so clear, crisp, and it doesn't lose that kind of like noise edge, if that makes sense. It doesn't sound like it's like
Yes,
polished. Well, it sounds polished, but it doesn't sound unrealistic. Um,
yeah,
there is
and
that
it,
metal sound.
yeah. I mean, it sounds gnarly, and it has a wildness to it as well. It's not, things are getting clearer and clearer and more pristine, and that's a really, I guess, useful. There's utility in it,
Yes,
but sometimes it can remove personality.
yes,
Um, and I feel like he sort of walks that tightrope perfectly
yeah,
of all of those sort of desirable elements, sort of heaviness and the craziness and chaoticness, rawness and the pristine. And the other element that you've just spoken to is he does some really subtle, nuanced sort of, I guess I would refer to it as post production or just production where there's like soundscape um, elements running in and underneath the music, which sort of elevates them. But really nice pad.
yeah,
Um, and as a someone who's on the older side, it kind of makes me think of like Vangelis, but without the sort of cheesy sort of inception of electronic music kind of sound. But
yeah,
it's um, that kind of aesthetic um, where he's almost thinking orchestrally, thinking in those sorts of layers.
yeah,
What can sit underneath this that lifts it up? And so yeah, that was really exciting. That's a new kind of dimension for us.
yeah. No, definitely. It was something I could hear in the record as well, which is great. It's like I said, there's a lot going on with it. Whereas before, like a lot of the earthtone9 stuff it was all instrument driven. So you had a lot of guitar droning and a lot of like stuff like that, and either layers on there or anything like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
there's like a soundscape element, like you said, to it.
yeah. And where we've done it, sort of used those sorts of things before. It's been in interludes, so it's been something between tracks, not embedded underneath or within tracks. And so that it's not entirely unfamiliar to us, but its application is new on this record.
Yeah. Cool. So next question, obvious question. Obviously, you have one date booked for a live show
Mm-hmm.
at the Arc Tangent Festival. Um, Anything in the pipeline in the way of touring, any other shows, festivals that are coming up at the moment, or are you just literally going to play this by ear? It's just going to be get this record out, get as many ears
It's
on it as possible.
yeah. Right now it's a play it by ear thing because um, we've been the boy who cried wolf a few times over the last few years, and so I feel like we need to get this record out. We'll probably play a warm up show or two. We'll do Arc Tangent, obviously, And then, we want to be a functioning band instead of a project.
Yeah.
I don't, we're never going to do 200 shows a year. That's not where we're at in terms of our lives. In fact, never say never, but it's unlikely that that's how we're going to do things. But we we want to play to audiences. We want to engage with our fan base. We want to get out and meet people and visit new places, revisit old places, all of the great stuff that comes with being a live band.
Yeah.
And I think on one level we need to win back people's trust and be like, believe that we are a band, not just a name from the past.
Yeah.
And so part of this record, it's a statement of intent about who we are as creatives, our alignment, and the path that we want to pursue, but also the manner in which we want to do it. But yeah, long story short, we haven't got anything locked in yet. We're waiting to see what the response is to the record and seeing what might appear on the horizon, and just keeping ourselves primed to be able to leap on any opportunities that come up.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I want to see you guys again.
Yeah.
Um, I can't remember the last time was. It might have been the garage,
Okay. Yeah.
I
But
think.
with pitch shifter or when we split.
No, oh no, it was Nottingham with Pitch Shifter. That was
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I went because you played with the Blueprint beforehand as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, no, I was at the Nottingham show on that tour because we decided to make a weekend out of it. We got a hotel and
Nice.
ended up there. So but yeah, I think that must have been the last time actually. That was that 5, 6?
6 years ago, 2018. But yeah, that's basically the last show we played. We did one little show with Raging Speedhorn,
Yeah.
kind of in the one of the lulls in COVID.
Yeah.
But that was only Si and me with a bunch of friends,
Okay.
just because COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny actually because I was laughing with Neil the other day. He's basically been in the band for 8 years, and we've probably done 8 shows. It's like a show a year. It's
Yeah.
absolutely, you know, it's nonsense. And so yeah, we need to turn that around.
Yeah, yeah, get some shows done, get some under about. But no, I'll be looking forward to seeing you when you do play. I'm obviously I've heard the record. I'm looking forward to seeing what other people think of the record. Obviously you've been getting some nice press. I've been seeing those pop up on the old.
Yeah, people have been kind, and it's been exciting to, it's like we made the record we wanted to make
Yeah.
as a means of expression, but then it becomes a communication thing, and then invariably you do become interested in what people think of it,
Oh yeah.
just because you've been so close to it for so long. And so yeah, it's been like heartwarming to see that after all this time, there's a bunch of people that are still interested in what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it is a fresh album, like amongst everything. Like obviously, I mean, my opinion, I think is always going to be biased because you're a band that means a lot to me in general. Like when I was younger and in my late teens and 20s, I followed you
mhm,
guys around. Obviously I covered one of your or my band covered one of your songs on our first album,
I
and
remember, I
we
remember we did it together at the
did
West End Centre.
that video is on YouTube still. Um, it is a video of its time. It's on a low quality camera or something.
Okay,
But
yeah,
it's
like
there. It's
pixelated.
there. And I've got the video evidence is there, which is fantastic. But it was like this album, I wasn't sure what to expect when I heard that you. So I heard the first track, the Oceanic Drift track, and it was a hell of a song to reintroduce yourself to people. Um, the video to that is fantastic as well.
Yeah, thank you. Again, that was something that was a Darren Tom suggestion about Sean and Loki. Um, so yeah, we've had a lot of help with making good decisions. In fact, not even help, like pointed in the direction of fresh talent is
Yes,
what I would say.
yeah, and I think that's key these days because there's a lot of like, I mean, like we talked about a little bit before we started, but obviously I released a record earlier this year, and there is a tendency to try and go back to those older ways of doing it, or at least
Hmm.
what I did before. Like, and this was like, and they're not realizing there's been like a 10-year, 11-year difference. Um, so and utilizing a lot of the new techniques, the new, people that understand the algorithms and whatnot and what works, but also like new people in the industry, or people that
Hmm.
aren't quite there, and just there is a tendency for a lot of bands to sort of stick with what they know and stick with the people that they know, which is fine. It can work for them, but if they really want to branch out, there's a lot of like underground, I say underground talent, but there's a lot of talent out there that go unseen for quite a while if you don't, if you're not active on social media and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff can just skip past you, and then they get picked up by someone else. You're like, oh crap, I saw that. Why didn't I? you know,
Yeah.
to that. But yeah, no, I mean the video for that, it, God, I don't know. I think I related more to that video to like
Mm.
carrying this weight of um
Yeah.
like up a hill. I feel that a lot, especially recently. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see you guys back in that
Thank
respect.
you.
It's been a long time coming, and it's this album is just like kind of like I don't have any complaints about it at all. It's like exactly what needed to happen on that respect. It's
Yeah.
like to me it's either that or nothing at the moment, because it's I think is it 10 songs? 10, yeah, 10 songs, and it's just from start to end. There's not a skippable moment that I can think off the top of my head that
Thank you. Yeah, I mean that's what was unique about this album, I think. It maybe apart from the first album where you're we weren't writing for a deadline, we weren't writing for anything. So we got to sit with the material, we got to live with it, iterate it, discard things that we felt weren't working, and do that with songs and parts, and just live with stuff for long enough. It's like, oh, you know what? I've got this now, and so there was just so much more choice. And I feel like with the first phase of the band, we worked at a really high rate. So we did 3 albums in 3 years. There's a
yeah,
lot of great moments in all of those records, but we were we were working at pace, and a done is better than perfect kind of situation where it's like this is the deadline, this is when we have to get something out. And when you're working in that way, in hindsight, you're like, you know what, I wish song X had an extra 2 or 3 months for us to just live with it. It
yeah,
feels unfinished. Whereas there isn't a moment on this record that I feel like at this point would benefit from change. You know, some folks have been saying that we've lent. It doesn't feel prog because none of the songs are particularly long, but there are a lot of ideas in there, and that came from us really getting inspiration and energy from our sort of thrash roots, where bands would have like 20 or 30 riffs going on, some
yeah,
would never repeat. So it was that creative restlessness that we wanted to have in the material, and balance that with the power of repetition that bands like Helmet or
yes,
Neurosis use.
yeah,
And so yeah, it feels that's another reason that this album sort of feels unique. The time it had to sit and gestate and come out in the way that it did, the opportunity we had to sort of curate from all of the material that we had and further develop
yeah,
those things. So it felt really cohesive. Um, so yeah, it feels so fully realized. It's wonderful to actually think that in 48 hours the whole thing will be available to the world.
yeah. It's
And
crazy,
yeah,
isn't it?
we're excited to see what the world thinks. It was always like a running comment that ended up kind of like being a joke, but like not a ha ha joke, but we were ahead of our time. And maybe maybe we're no longer ahead of our time. We're in the
Yes,
time we're supposed to be.
maybe you are now.
Yeah,
I mean, I hope it does you guys well, because like I say, I keep saying it. I'm gonna keep saying it's a solid record. It's out in 2 days. People go buy it. Um, and it's I don't want to wait 11 years for another one, but obviously with
hell no.
with like the process you've gone through with this one. Obviously, you've sat on this for a little while, a lot of different tracks. You said you discarded at least 2 albums worth of stuff. Um, so like you say, when you likened it to the like first album, I always like when I instantly thought it's like, because obviously the first album of a band, it's years of demos, things like that. It's rarely a brand new record for the artist itself. It's songs
Mm,
they've been able to put together and tweak as they need to, and then finally they get to record it. um
yep.
there's been like demo versions where you've kind of like, actually I don't like that bridge, or I don't like that,
Mhm.
sorry, I don't like any of those sort of things. And obviously you guys have had 11 years between albums, give or take the actual time you were actually together. um and yeah, I mean, it I don't it doesn't sound like the first album kind of thing. The first album again, kind of that sort of vibe, but it's a definite, like, it's a hybrid of the first 3 4 albums that I think a lot, even the old school earthtone 9 fans that are there are gonna love this record. I
I
mean,
think so. I mean, even if they don't like it initially, what I what I would say is like trust us as creators. You've been with us once before. Listen to it and let it breathe, and it will reveal itself over time. It's not an instant record. I mean, there's some catchy elements, there's some hooky elements, but there are layers to it as well. It's the sort of record that you need to live with. Um, and Yeah, like I said, it will reveal itself. So it's an interesting one because we're in such a rapid paced world now more than ever, with thousands of songs being uploaded to Spotify
yeah,
every day. Um, um, People being bombarded by things to satiate them and sort of pique their attention.
yeah,
And so it remains to be seen the extent to which it's possible for an album to stick, unless it's followed up by huge campaigns and a real push. And we're going to get more of that with Candlelight, but we're not on a major, so
yeah,
um, it is what it is. We've written a record that we love, and for me, our thing has always been like, well, me more than anyone else, but the Stooges put out an album in 1969. It was laughed about for a few years in the cool kid circles, but it's one of the most important records of all time for some people,
yeah,
and it's like that. That speaks to the staying power of music. This is going to be there forever. People will discover it, and it's a quality piece of work. And I would say that, wouldn't I? Because I'm here plugging it,
there
but
you are. But
I sincerely believe in it. We wrote an album that we wanted to hear as fans. We wanted to write an album that we felt that was um, had all of the hallmarks of our creative endeavors, but had lots of new looks that but were consistent with um, with the band and its
yeah,
identity. And
yeah,
I feel like we've done that.
you have definitely,
And
like, you've not sold out what some people would class a lot of modernizations of bands would be. This is definitely an earthtone 9 record, and there's no, it's not like you've made something for, like you say, with people with dwindling attention spans and whatnot, of not to pinpoint most social media, but things like TikTok, where it's like 5 second videos, set 10 second videos to make your impression. Um, it's something you could like. It's There's only been a few albums where I've been able to sort of like sit down and said, yes, they created this as an album. This is one of them. Um, and like a lot of bands will go for that kind of like, not instant gratification, but that one song that will um catch. Obviously, it's the plan for any band to have their music catch, because that's how you sell units. But yeah, it's just sort of like this album as a whole. I think hopefully people will sit with it, will listen to it as a whole album, if they can sit and listen for longer than 20 seconds. um, but yeah, I've got a couple of questions left for you, Carl, and then I'll let you get
yeah,
on.
fire away, dude.
So I think last time I probably went over your 3 albums and hobbies and such, so I had to change it out for this one. So what I want to find out, I'll go for 3, seems to be my magic number, but if you could give people three songs they had to hear or have to hear, not necessarily your own songs, but you know, if there are three songs that in your life that have like you've gone, oh fucking that's amazing, and you want everyone else to hear it that may not have heard it, could
Mm,
you possibly pinpoint those?
that's really tricky without any prep, dude.
Yeah, sorry.
Um, oh, it's fine. I mean, I love A Season in the Sky by Neurosis off of The Eye of Every Storm. Incredibly beautiful. Got some, it's got all of the elements of their band, of that band that I love, but they brought in a sort of sparseness, a sort of like Americana vibe.
Yeah.
Um, Magic. There's a song, track three on The Satanist by Behemoth. I think it's called Messe Noir. I'm just pulling it up on my phone. Yeah, it's called Messe Noir. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And then Rid of Me by PJ Harvey.
Okay. Cool.
Again, incredible artist.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Um,
those are three. I mean, those are three solo tracks. I mean, I love Neurosis. Like, not many people I know who they are or know what they do or what they've done.
ah,
Um, and um, yeah, just the way how experimental they were. Oh, yeah. Are they still going? I can't think they are.
no, no. I mean, there was a thing with Scott Kelly,
There
and
was,
so I
yes,
think
yes.
the
Okay. Ah,
they've kind of
time has. But
dropped off the map since that happened.
yeah, I mean, I saw them live at the Astoria back, guessing it was like 25 years ago, and it's just like
Hmm.
big, like tribal groaning. It was just fantastic. It was just like totally just encompassing of noise, um, but structured noise. And it was just like it was just one of those shows where I sat there and watched them. That's all really I could have done. Like there wasn't like
Yeah,
I was really moved, but everyone was kind of in awe of them.
yeah,
And
powerful.
yeah, and just amazing, amazing band. And some of the stuff they did with like the multiple CD releases that work together when you play with them to like at the
Hmm.
same time,
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. And I think I've got the standard in Silver Through Blood, um, either on CD or vinyl somewhere in here. Um,
mm,
looking around in it's actually my garage, but I call it my studio. Um, I've got these like boxes everywhere just full of records. I know I've got it in there somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
Obviously Behemoth, fantastic band again. Like again, like a lot of their stuff. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of theirs. Like in general, I don't own a lot of their music in that respect, but I have seen them play and heard them, and they are very good. And PJ Harvey as well, again, very good.
Yeah. I mean, they're all artists that sort of started off within a genre and then outgrew the constraints of it.
Yeah,
It's like Behemoth are basically like arena black metal, which
yeah, yeah,
sounds like a curiosity. PJ Harvey was a kind of like it was grunge era, but not really grunge. It sounded like college rock, but not quite, and just a powerful woman writing powerful music, and it was really stripped down power trio vibes at that point.
yeah,
And then Neurosis, you've already spoken to.
yeah. No, it's yeah, three fantastic artists. Well, Carl, gonna leave it there with you, I think. I'll let you get on with the rest of your evening. But thank you. Everyone, the album is out on the 21st, Friday. It's called
In
uh,
Resonance Nexus.
That's it. In Resonance Nexus. Sorry, I was getting my tongue tied there. It's out via candlelight, so it'll be on all the usual outlets. But there is physical media available. As I mentioned earlier, I pre-ordered the vinyl. Obviously, you got CDs and all that kind of good stuff going there as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
however people consume your music or the viewers consume their music, they will find it. It will be everywhere for the world. Um, yeah, good luck with it, man.
Thank you, brother.
I'm really looking forward to sort of hearing some of these songs live. um, along with some of the
Yeah,
classics. Obviously.
yeah.
Um,
We were rehearsing last weekend, and so it was fun to try and knock these new songs into shape and figure out what they're going to look and sound like.
how are you like
But
picking your set? in that respect? I mean, for Arctangent, obviously
Um,
back on it, but what's the plan for that? Is it because I know you were lined up to play Arctangent, um, in its entirety.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, that was a while ago, and that ship has sailed.
yeah, I was
Really,
gonna
I
say
mean,
that's good.
what we're there to celebrate a new album, so we're going to play mostly new songs, and we'll dust off the old bangers that everyone will expect.
Nice.
There's always debate about what people expect, but we'll play a few old songs, but we're going to play mostly new
Yeah,
because that's what we're there to do. We've spent a long time kind of being a heritage band, really, um, just because we didn't have anything new to celebrate or to play
yeah,
to people to remind them that we're actually, we're creative musicians, and that's what we want to do. We're not just um, performers of the hits
yes.
that we've never
You're not
had.
performing monkeys of
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean obviously there are bands out there that play sort of like heritage like sets, if you will, or whatever, how you want to like go for
Yeah,
it.
and that's cool. But it depends on if you see yourself as a performer and an entertainer first and foremost, or as a creative. And it's always it's a it's on a gradient, for want of a better word. But the way Cave-In have done it over the last few years is like feels like a really good blueprint. Their first couple of times I saw them, as they were sort of working this latest record. They were playing, like a real cross section of material.
Yeah,
But then when I saw them at can't remember if it's 2003 or Arc Tangent last year, but their set was like they probably played half or two-thirds of their newest album, and then they played a bunch of the material that serious fans would hope to hear.
yeah,
But they've got a deep catalog, 10, 11 albums. You're not going to hear everything that you want to, but that's where we see ourselves. We're a current band making new music,
yeah,
and we also have a catalog that we would like to share with
yeah,
people that enjoyed that music sort of in the past. And that's that's what we're looking to achieve in our own way.
yeah. I mean, I like I say, I want to hear I want to hear all these songs live, actually, to be honest with you. I just want to see how they translate on how you guys work those live. And yeah, just to sort of obviously hear new music from you guys is great on its own. It's not happened for a while. Obviously, the last thing was four, which I've had a few people mention that's very hard to get hold of now, or at least cheaply.
Yeah, I hear this. I mean, it was a director fan release. It was crowdfunded. We um, pressed. We didn't press very many. Probably four or
Yeah,
500 CDs. We didn't do vinyl at that point because it just because it didn't feel like the right time.
yeah,
But it's you can still buy the files on Bandcamp or listen to it on Bandcamp. It's not like it's unavailable. Maybe
no,
it's just
no,
getting a getting a CD is perhaps not the easiest thing in the world.
yeah. That was the one thing that someone said to me. It was like they were trying to buy the physical CD, and I was like, really? Is it that expensive? They went on Discogs. It's like 40, 50 pounds.
Hmm.
eBay's got it listed for the same sort of price as well, and I was like, oh wow.
Wow.
I'm glad I backed that one. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, I was just I like that. I had someone ask me if I could ask you guys if you were any intention of repressing it or anything like that. But obviously, that'll
I
only
mean,
happen if the call is there for it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I've been surprised at how many folks have bought CDs this time round. We did a deal with Candlelight where it was like we'll sell 100 vinyl of the deluxe, 100 of the standard, and 100 CDs. And the CDs were kind of an afterthought. But we're like 48 or 72 hours, whatever, before release day, and we've pretty much pre-sold all of those numbers of the deluxe and the CD. And so I can't work out if people genuinely still listen to CDs or they're doing it because they want to support the band and they don't give a shit about buying a giant record that might break in the post or
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah,
There are some folks that yeah, just active supporters or advocates, and so
yeah.
that's their way of supporting. But yeah, be interested to know. So if any of your listeners
Yeah. I mean, it's
can
kind of
chime in on that.
Yeah, I mean the CD side of things. I mean, I still buy CDs. Obviously, I can't sometimes opt for vinyl depending on what what it is, but
Yeah.
they get played. I got a CD player. Yeah, literally
Okay.
that just there is a CD.
Right.
Obviously got
Yeah.
the turntables behind me as well, so they get used to listen to music and obviously
Okay.
messing around on them. But I think people are realizing that the quality of the sound that you get from CDs and vinyl, for that matter, like it's surpassing the digital element. As much as nice as lossless and all that kind of stuff is, I think a lot of people, from my perspective anyway, have realized that the quality of the sound, when you are listening to it, there's a lot of frequencies you don't hear because either it's because it's an MP3 or it's because the
Hmm.
Bluetooth connection is compressing it to obviously make it, more accessible on that front. I mean, even with lossless files, if you're listening to it through a Bluetooth headphones, you're not getting everything out of it.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if it will be a rise of CDs or anything again. I mean, I'd never say never. I thought vinyl was completely gone at one point, but yeah, it seems to be something that people are sort of turning around to and getting the sort of, I think the sort of ceremonial thing is the cassette tape because
Mm.
I mean I've got an old Walkman here somewhere. It's I don't know if it'll still play tapes. I mean, I've still got cassette tapes, but I've got really nothing to play them on, and I've not really
Yeah.
seen anything for sale as such, apart from an old like sort of ghetto blaster type thing, um,
Hmm.
to play them on.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely something nice about having a physical format. Like it feels real instead of just something which is nebulous. But I'll level with you. Sometimes I'll get out a record and look at it, but I listen to it on Spotify. You know what I mean? I'm not much of an audiophile. Um, but I enjoy the act of, you've got something that's an audio experience, but to have a visual accompaniment to it and
Yeah,
to have it be tangible as well is, it makes it a more immersive experience, I guess.
yeah. I mean,
Reading through the lyric sheet,
yeah. I mean, I get that. I
that
look
sort
at
of
it
stuff.
like now. Obviously, the physical element, the artwork and stuff like that is fantastic. I also see now that a lot of places are, especially with the streaming services. I mean, don't get me wrong, I subscribe to one. Can work for one of the companies, but it
Mm.
you know, I'll do the same sort of thing sometimes. Is I'll pull out the album, but I'm like, oh, I'll just pop it on the laptop here and have it play through there. Um, but actually, like, if I was to stop paying for that service, if I was to, you know, something swears me off technology, I don't think that'll happen. But something like that, I've still got the physical aspect of those albums. I can still listen to those albums.
Hmm.
There's no paywall there that's that I'm not having to subscribe to or anything like that. Um, and I think there's that element now of like, people are renting movies, people are renting video games now. In fact, like a lot of like companies are saying get used to not owning video games anymore. And it's just like, okay, for
Mm.
years purchased games, and that like game have just sold up all their secondhand stock because they're not going to do that anymore because it's all going digital. But I still think that
Wow.
there's a there's a thing of that physical product, that piece of art.
Mm.
With vinyl you
Yeah.
can physically see it. With a CD, you get a nice little digital book, you get a little booklet and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And in a more broadly speaking, what the internet age has opened up is like individualized experiences. And whenever you move away from a mass media sort of broadcast paradigm, which is prescribed, um, that that individuated thing will arise. And whenever that's happening, you create a sort of a culture or a breeding ground for niches. So even if the majority of the world are um, consuming things as if the internet is a library where you borrow or you pay for access rather than owning a thing, there will still be a bunch of people that don't want that crave like a physical thing, even if it's just a totem, because it makes it more experiential.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think I fall into that bracket with a lot of the stuff. But Carl, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Honestly,
Thank you again.
hearing you guys back, getting to chat to you and stuff as well. It's always a pleasure on that front. But yeah, like I say, good luck with the album. I hope it does you well. I hope the shows and stuff, or the show you've got coming up at Arctangent, get a nice little crowd there. I know that festival is absolutely stacked. And you know,
Yeah, it's rad.
I've
It's a
got my
rad lineup.
yeah, I got a couple of my friends are going, and they go every year, and they absolutely that and 2,000 trees. They just say is fantastic. So, but yeah, good luck with all that, and yeah, good luck with the album launch on Friday.
Thank you, dude. Take care, man.
Thank you, mate.
Peace.